Gentles and ladymen, I'm Spiro, and I'm not a wizard. In this video, I'm going to go over some of the initial work I've been doing on creating my own text adventure engine. The code I had here on this disk came from the Adventure Game Writer's Handbook that I've been working on in some other videos. I think it's actually horrible code, but it gave me inspiration to make less horrible code, and that's my goal. So I have started working on that. Now, I'm not sure if my machine is going to technical difficulties. There we go. Okay, for some reason, whenever I start recording with OBS lately, well today, my toolbar stops responding to key clicks in a reasonable time frame. Okay, so I have here the beginning of my engine. I have been taking... What was that? No, that's something else entirely. I started making notes on how I wanted to lay things out, how I was going to deal with the command logic. And I thought about having so in the Adventure Game Writer's Handbook. Oh, there we go. I told you that mouse click I was talking about just caught up. Screw you, computer. Oddly enough, though, so in this code here, the ed and the int, so this is the editor and this is the interpreter. They go through. So the editor allows you to set up the rooms, so it allows you to build the adventure as if you were the designer. So you set up the rooms, you set up the objects, you set up the verbs, you set up all the actions and the conditions that trigger those actions, and then that gets saved into a game data file, and then you run it with the interpreter. It was flaky, to say the least, but as I said, it gave me a lot of inspiration and a lot of good grounding to start again. Like every time I looked at the code, I was like, oh, that's horrible, why are you doing that? Oh, that's horrible, why are you doing that? It's like, oh, you forgot to do this, you forgot to do that. So because I'm and if you've watched a few of my past videos, you know I started building an engine in assembly language as well. I thought I'd skip basic and just go straight to assembly, but I don't know if I'm quite ready for that. Like, I mean, I know and what I mean by that is not that I don't know the assembly language side of it enough to get on with that. What I want to do is I want to have the basic version as a kind of prototype, and then I think it'll be a lot quicker and easier for me to prototype the game in basic, and then once I'm happy with it, I will convert that into assembly, and see how that goes. One thing I'm not 100% sure of is, like, I don't want to make how this guy, I think his name was George Wachowski, how he puts absolutely everything into the game data. I don't know if it was 100% necessary to do all that. Like, say for example, the verbs, the commands you type. I don't see why someone should have to go and start going, okay, I want this command. I mean, I can understand why. It just seems quite tedious to me, and I but if you're going to make games, and if this gets spread to other people, and they want to make games, to me, the basic verbs, the commands, are going to be 99% the same for every single game. I don't see why they should be re-entered every single time again manually. I can hear a cat meowing. She should be fine. That said, I do want to figure out how to add custom commands to it, so that if a game designer wants to add their own custom commands on top of the basics, then they hopefully will be able to. That might be a feature for down the track. What I've got is what I hope is pretty thorough starting point. And this takes into account synonyms. So take and get will be the same command. Just a quick side note, in interactive fiction or in text adventure parlance, traditionally the verb, the command you type, so go, look, take, drop, whatever, they call it the verb. In the thing you're referring to, so the object, they call it the noun. It's fine. It's just what it is. So I'm going to extend that and say, okay, the verbs are the individual words that you type, but they will be linked to commands. And I don't know how legible that'll be, but get and take will be verbs referring to a command, and most of these have a parameter. If they're in angled brackets, it's you have to have that parameter. If it's in square brackets, it's an optional parameter. So for example, if you type just look without specifying an object to look at. Hello? Is it raining outside and did you get wet? Yeah? Really? I have to go attend to a cat. One moment. What was I talking about? I think I was talking about commands. So yeah, some commands will have optional parameters, some will have required parameters. Yeah, I'm not entirely sure how I'm going to get through all of that, but we'll see. I've got to not click on buttons. Okay, so using this Visual Studio Code, I mentioned in my last video, but I'll just mention it again quickly here. Where have we got? I'm using this Commodore 64 Basic V2 extension by G. Verducci. And that does the syntax highlighting for me, and deals with, anyway, these control codes I'll deal with. To some degree this is just playing. I can't completely do everything on paper. I don't know why, my brain, I still have to write code down because this helps me. So what I've identified, you will hear a cat because she came in, it started raining, she's wet. I toweled her down. They love being toweled down. I'm sure they will continue to go in and out of the rain non-stop just so that I can give them a big rub down with the towel again. Crazy, but I love them. Anyway, she's in the window. You'll probably see her butt walking past here in a few minutes. So I wanted to set up a format for the game data file and the game save file. And part of it will be to ensure that you're not loading the wrong thing, blah, blah, blah. So so the game data file is going to the first two strings will be the so if we see the Z1 string and the Z2 string are compared to EN string and EV string, so that's these here, the game engine name and the game engine version, right? So the first thing it'll check is this a game data file for this game engine. It'll print the SM string in my system messages. So number 6 will be incompatible game data. Then it'll go to 580, which I don't know if... Oh, here it is, stop load. So that'll close the disk file. Because there's no need to proceed because it's not a game data file. Then it will load adventure metadata, so the adventure name, the adventure version, the copyright year, the copyright owner. So this is all stuff that will be configured by the game designer, and these strings will be displayable when you start the interpreter. So when the interpreter starts, you'll say, welcome to, game name, version number, copyright, blah, 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 who by, etc. And then I want to have an intro page. So whether you want to have, whether that's well, it won't be a graphic image, but it might be a screen worth of, like an intro screen. It'll be Petsky. Then it will, so it'll load this data, and then it'll show you the intro page as soon as possible while it continues to load data. Otherwise it's just going to be, I just thought it would, I don't want to load all the game data while they're looking at a blank screen, twiddling their thumbs going, oh, that's very interesting. So show the intro screen as early as possible, then continue loading data. So player start locations, the game score, the maximum inventory slots, load the intro text, which will be, once they go past the intro page, it'll say, normally when you start an adventure game, it gives you a like background on the game. Load locations, objects, messages, then it will close the disk, close the file. It does a check for disk error. This was actually one of the more interesting things that was in Wachowski's book, which was like I don't know a lot about reading and writing to disks from BASIC, so writing to sequential files, writing to relative files. So part of that is my learning experience, which I'm hoping will, once I understand it better, will transfer to me when I create the assembly language version of this. So there's a check for disk error. So I've got I started writing the save and the load routines. So these are for your player save and load as you're playing. What I wanted to do, so the first thing I've got is, let's say, again, none of these have line numbers because this is just me working through the technicals on the screen rather than on the paper. So it'll ask you to insert a save disk in case someone wants to flip change from the game disk to a save disk. Once they've done that, it'll do a directory listing. Now this has been some interesting things I've been working on. I'll get to that in a sec. And then it'll ask them the save file name, and then it'll save everything. So we've got the engine name, the engine version, adventure name, adventure version, the player location where they're currently at, what their score currently is, the number of inventory items they've got, and then it'll load the inventory items. So various things like that. Now, one thing I was thinking about with the inventory is that of all the locations, aka rooms in traditional parlance, I'm thinking about using location 0 as my inventory. So if something gets moved into location 0, it's in the player inventory. There'll be a few other things done, like setting there'll be flags which get set and so on. The way this will, I hope, work is that the game data will load at the beginning, and then when you load your game, it will modify some of those default objects in memory. So if you've made changes to them, if you've picked up an object and dropped it in a completely different room, then that object's location number will be different. So that'll all be modified. Things like if you fill bottles or empty bottles, or things like that, all of that will be stored in your save file, and hello, I'm recording video, chicken. So hopefully that'll mean that I won't need to do any extra work. It'll just be, I'll load these items over the top. Yeah, so that's the kind of general gist. Now what I've got here is that you'll see I've got a directory list. So what I wanted to do was, oh, there's a cat coming. You alright? You're just talking to me, are you? Okay, that's cool. I was just saying hi. So what I wanted to do was, because you forget the file names and so on, so what I wanted to do was, when you do a save or a load, it'd give you a quick listing of the files on the disk, so then you can go, yep, that's the file I want to save over, or this is the file I want to load, and so on. Shush. Oh, hello again. Here you come. Come on. Just don't show your butt. Otherwise the whole internet will see it. Oh, don't show the butt. Don't show the butt. Down. Down. Come on. Come on. Oh. This is Harley. Oh dear. Don't use the computer, okay? I'm using it. Go down. Come on. You go down. Oh dear me. Go on then. Good girl. Okay, sorry about that. So I was playing around with this directory listing code. So what I found was in, oh fudge, I did it again, I clicked on the, this will minimize again soon when it catches up with that click. So inside the 1541 users guide, there's actually a directory listing code in here, which is unfortunate. It's, there it goes again. It's actually this code and these example programs are not in the 1541.2 users guide, which is weird because the 1541.2 user guide is like over 100 pages, where this one is 70, 80 pages. Anyway, so I started looking at this. Now this is full of bugs and it does some really weird stuff. When you do a directory listing, you have the number of blocks down the side. This, when it was multiplying by 256, I think it was trying to jump to different bytes on the track. Because each sector stores 256. There's a cat down there. Each sector is 256 bytes worth of file information. I won't get into that here. It's probably out of the scope of this and make an already long rambly video longer and ramblier. But anyway, it was coming up with numbers that were in the thousands. I couldn't get it to display the blocks. Like I in the end, I got it to display the number 64 on every one of them. I don't know what that 64 was referring to. I've still got to do a bit more of a dive into the disks and the BAM, the block availability map, how that works. I started reading the directory output directly, and it just got weird. The first thing it does is it opens up the disk, so that's drive 8. Now this $sign indicates it's going to open up a directory listing. The 0 is just a default if you've got multiple drives configured. You'll have it, one will be a 0, one will be a 1. I don't know why they have that where they also have that. I don't understand that just yet. Whereas this code opens up all of the files basically, right? So it's just saying, I want to do a directory of device 0 on device 8. Yep. What I've done is I've said all the files that equal to S, which says all the sequential files. So I don't want to list program files, because if this happens to be on a disk with your game as well, you probably don't want to view all that. It'll just so what I ended up with was something that looked a little bit like this. So if I do I'll do a listing. So this is what a normal directory listing would look like if I was to do it. So I've got a $sign because I'm using the super snapshot, so it's the shortcut. There's a bit of code above line 500 which was testing for something else, but effectively this code is this. So if I run this, and now as you saw before, we'll do that again. Oh, bump sticks. Right, if I do a full directory listing, this is what's on there. Bunch of PRG files and 1, 2, 3 sequential files. So if I run this, it'll only list the sequential files. It's very slow, and I don't know why that is. It doesn't print the block numbers because I couldn't get them right, and I don't print the blocks free because that was another number that just didn't come out right. But that's what my hope is, so that when you go to save or load a file, it'll do a quick listing of the available sequential files on the disk, and then you can choose to load or save over or around them. Yeah, that was I spent hours last night working just on this. I did a simple directory test as well using this code. This actually I can terminal. Where do I go? View my terminal. Look at that. Using our newfound powers of converting this basic source code, I'll show you what. So this was what I tried to do. Was I tried to look directly at the. I don't know if the block allocation map is the right. So what I tried to do was look down here, and so we got the directory format. This code here is trying to read this data directly. So you can see it's 200 each. Track 18 block 1. So each block is a sector, and it is 256 bytes. So 0 to 255. So I set up an array of 256 bytes, did a directory listing, open it up to do a directory, run through it, and then print each of those characters. I tried making it so that it would, on those, to try to do a modulo operator so that when it hit byte 2, 34, 66, 98, 130, 162, and so on, that it would print a new line, so that otherwise, if I didn't do that, it would just kind of, I'm just printing characters consecutively. So let's go dir.prg, because it has to be a different name to the other PRG. Dir test. Okay. All right, we got dir.prg. So this, just to show you, is different to this code. It is a lot simpler. I was trying to simplify it as much as I could to try and understand how the directory structure. I was trying to display the raw bytes that were stored, but BASIC wasn't letting me do that. And in my playing, I ended up with this, which hopefully will run. Here we go. Okay, so wow. Because it's gonna print through 256 characters regardless anyway. So there's a whole bunch of nothing data. Well, that's interesting that the blocks free is actually in that block. That is weird. So I don't understand why. So this disk is called, because we ran it directly from the command line. So we basically said load vice and run this PRG file. The PRG file was called dir, and so Vice creates an auto start disk, which is why it, we didn't have to load it manually and run it manually. It auto started it. So when using this code on bigger disks, it kind of, not every row lined up, like a couple of them were offset by one space, and I don't know why. So I think there's a little bit more I have to work through to figure that stuff out. But it's kind of interesting. Like I was up till almost 1 in the morning trying to figure out this stuff last night, which I don't normally do. I'm normally long asleep by then. But yeah, it was kind of cool. So the other thing I tried playing with was reading blocks of 30 bytes. So each of these are, each file entry is 30 bytes. I just couldn't figure it out. Maybe it is, well, I won't say maybe, it's probably a restriction of or limitation of the basic print command, that I'm not able to print the raw bytes. So I'm probably going to have to come up with a little routine that basically that prints the raw byte in hex or in binary, or maybe binary will be too complicated, but you know what I mean. So anyway, that is where I'm at with my engine. That is, playing around with the disk access is what I'm currently having fun with. And yeah, I think that I've rambled on for long enough in this video. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed it. I hope you're following along with this and the other videos. I know that there are a few people who are. I've lost my train of thought. There's still a cat down there. At least she's quiet. Yeah, if you've got any ideas, I would welcome them. Please leave them in the comments below. I've been getting a lot of great feedback, a lot of great comments and help from a lot of people, and I really appreciate that. Thank you to everyone. I will, once I've got something that can run, like so this is going to be the interpreter. I'm also going to create an adventure editor. I don't know why I didn't start with that, but anyway, you know, you'll probably soon realize I'm a bit mental. Most of this code will be replicatable, so once I've got something that I can run successfully and create a bit of a data file, I'll put that up on my GitHub, and then you'll be able to have a look at it, play around with it, and give feedback on the actual code. Yeah, I think I'll leave it at that. I never know how to end videos properly, so I'll just end it and say thanks for watching. I should probably write down an exit thing. I'm just going to log out now. I'll see you later. Thanks for watching.